You're listening to a special presentation of Not So Live from Asteroid G. Technically, we've already recorded the season premiere, but then Luffy had a fantastic idea for a podcast that we should do that's very timely. So even though in the future podcast it's going to say, here's our season premiere, this is actually going to be our special presentation season premiere, because we're going to be covering a topic we don't do very often, football. I feel so weird saying that.
I'm excited that you agreed to this. It's going to be fun.
If this works out well and is actually a good cast, I'm going to say we do this every year until we get bored and do something else. Because for a few years we did awards. We were doing like Academy Awards, but for Asteroid G. I think we were calling them the Gussies for some reason. I don't know why. That has been lost to time. But this is more interesting because it's actually timely content that doesn't require us to think and say the same shit over and over again. So what we have decided was you wanted to talk about football, the upcoming 3 games, the AFC, the NFC conferences, and then the Super Bowl itself. And I don't know jack shit about football.
Right. I'm your resident sports expert, I guess, when it comes to this podcast we're doing today.
When we talk about streaming, you're like, oh, and I need to use this for NFL and stuff, and I'm like, that's a thing? Oh, right, okay. The sports puck. But no, this one specifically, like, I pay attention just enough to know if the Patriots or the Lions are in, but I don't watch games because every time I watch a game, they lose. So that just seems to be what happens. But Becky is happy because the Lions are in, and they're her team. And this is the farthest they've gotten since forever.
1991, I believe, is the last time the Lions were here. And I remember this because I was in Boy Scouts at the time, and we were talking in, the troop meeting, like who was going to win, and everybody was going. I think at the time it was Washington and I can't remember the other team, but everybody was like, Washington's going to win. And that was when Washington was very good. And I was like, I'll be different. I'll pick Detroit. And they got horribly destroyed.
As they do.
And then have not made it back in 30 plus years. No. So congratulations to the Lions.
Well, because the Lions have this tendency to be really good for half a season and then shit the bed. Like, I don't think there's any other way to describe it. But we have the Lions and we have the 49ers, and they're going to be our first game that we cover. And when I say cover, I mean we ran a simulation of Tecmo Super Bowl. And if you've checked the website, I already have my play-by-play written on there because it was too good an article not to post. It's fun. This was kind of an interesting experiment. So we ran Tecmo Super Bowl. I did preseason because I didn't want to have to try and program a full
simulate an entire season.
I'm sure we could probably figure out a way to fake it for next year, but it was too much hassle to do it this year. So I ran a preseason game of Detroit versus the 49ers. Then it was a preseason game of the Ravens and the Chiefs, which when you're playing computer versus computer, it doesn't matter if you're preseason, postseason, whatever. They're still going to play the way they play.
Right.
And then
they definitely did. They did. There was some questionable.
There was weird decisions.
Like, why aren't you going for it on 4th down, or why are you burning timeouts here? I'm like, oh wait, the computer's playing.
Not like we do. No, because we'll come to a point where they're burning timeouts, and I'm like, you're still 2 minutes to the end. You could get like 3 more phases in here, guys. This is the weird. Yeah.
You know how fast plays are in this game, computer? You're the one that's in the game. Like,
dude, I know how fast plays are now because I had to write play-by-play for this, and I'm like, oh my god, I've got 15 fucking seconds for a whole thing. What the hell is going on?
I watched this at like time and a half, so my notes were very quick, but I'm more than happy to go back, rewatch, and expand because this was actually a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. I loved the idea, and we had a good time.
Yeah, we'll do it again. And then of course we do the Super Bowl, which we're not going to spoil yet. We'll get to that when we do the podcast. But first game was NFC, Lions versus the 49ers. And before we go into the details of it, I have to say the Lions played exactly as I expected. They did a really good 3 quarters and then shit the bed.
They did. And then they played the way I feel like they're going to have to play in real life this weekend to have a chance. They controlled the clock the majority of the game. Jared Goff was very good. DeAndre Swift, because we didn't have exact accurate rosters. It was like 2020.
We were a year back, and I need to look. Next time we do this, I need to look and see if I can get a proper roster, which, of course, the roster starts at the start of the season. So if they have injuries or other things that we can't take into account, we'll just not be able to do it. I didn't even bother tracking player names for my play-by-play because I'm just like, this is going too fast, and I'm not even sure this is accurate anymore. Like, I started to write Frank Johnson at one point. I'm like, I'm not even sure he's on the team. And wasn't he also a character on The Expanse? What are we playing here?
There was a running back for Detroit I did not even know played on that team at any point. I think it was their fullback that was getting like carries. I'm like, that's one way to go about it, sure. But the spirit of what we were trying to do.
This is all that matters right here. Yeah. We'll be a little more accurate next year if we do this again. But I did have fun with this because it was silly to watch this happening and be like, okay, this is what we're doing. Yeah. So early in the game, the Lions tried to go down the field and could only get a field goal. And I'm like, and this is spelling doom for the Lions already. But they controlled it for a good while. They had it for a good while, like watching it. 49ers came back, took the game with a touchdown, so 7-3. And then the Lions scored their own and then kind of kept the 49ers at pace. Like, it was 10-7 and then 14-10 and then 17-14 and then 20-14. So the Lions had put good score on the board.
Yes. They were back and forth, and they were holding their own.
It was great. It was great. I love to see it.
It was fun to watch. Yeah. Jared Goff was very strong. Amon-Ra was doing his thing. 49ers, Brandon Ayuk kind of took this game over a little bit here and there, which I think is something you can also see this weekend, real-life football talk, with the cornerbacks of Detroit being the weak points of their defense. So watch Ayuk this weekend for real, because he had a good game in this one.
It did feel like every time that the Lions had a good thing going and then they had to pass the ball off, the other team, the 49ers, just ran around the outside, and the Lions just weren't able to stop the run plays, which
they weren't. Yeah.
If I were playing against the Detroit Lions in Tecmo Super Bowl, I'd be absolutely running the run plays, which we'll see in the next game, not against the Lions, but still. But yeah, the big moment, which should have been huge for them, there was a punt return from the 49ers that only made it to the 12, and then they tried to sneak a pass. However, a fumble at the Lions 45 is recovered by the Lions, and then they take it all the way to the 49ers 18, and I say it's a big play because this should have been the moment when the Lions sealed the deal, and then all they could do was field goal from the 8.
Yeah, it was really upsetting. It was an opportunity, like you said, to really take it. It was a big turnover, and they had a point to really try to like take that lead. I think it would have been 31-28 at the time.
I tracked.
And they just couldn't do it.
By this score here, I tracked 24-14, which is still a 10-point up. That requires the 49ers not only to bring it back with a touchdown, but then field goal it as well in like the last quarter. And there was no way you think the 49ers are going to do it against this defense, because it's been just good enough that like 2 scores is stopped. But instead, it's 20-14, and then the 49ers take it up 21-20 almost immediately afterwards. Like, it was quick. They scored back.
That was very fast. Yeah. I think Kyle Juszczyk, had a big pass on that, maybe like 40, 50 yards. And, Trey Lance was just being, funny enough to see Trey Lance and not Brock Purdy in there. But point is, like, the San Francisco quarterback held true to firm, and it was very surgical in their attack, very accurate, which is what I think we'll see this weekend from Purdy as well. Yeah,
the Lions try to bring it back in the fourth quarter after they get the punt. And then they're inches from completing on their third down, and they have to punt it away. And that's the last. That's basically the last heartbreaker right there, because 49ers take it back 28-20. They score again, and even with the Lions on a punt return that leads to a fumble at the middle of the field that the Lions scoop up and take back on a touchdown, they're at 28-27, and they do what you have to do. They do a short punt to try and get the control of the ball themselves. 49ers recover, 35-28 is the last score.
Yeah, I think they returned that onside kick for a touchdown too, and it was exciting because you're like, here it is, Detroit, they're down by 1. We're gonna have an onside kick. We'll see what happens, and then very anticlimactically they return it for a touchdown. What can you do? It is what it is. Shout out to the Lions for a great season, but San Francisco holds out.
Yeah, it was an impressive run. They did a great game. This was a close game. I loved watching this one. Like, the fumbles. There were so many fumbles in this stupid game.
A lot of turnovers.
It was a lot of turnovers, and a lot of times where they had to punt away. Both teams were working it back and forth. If this was a real game at the NFC Championship, you would have people screaming in the field. Like, people would be running out after that third fumble going, what the hell are you guys doing?
Just like hang on to the ball, like change your gloves, figure something out.
How are you fucking up this bad? Put some sticky tape on there.
Yeah, as someone that played sports, we call that, the team trying to give the game away.
Yeah.
And each team was trying to give the game away to
Oh
the
my
other
God,
one.
yeah.
And it was a fun game. It was back and forth, but you got
Dynamic.
to rein those turnovers in for sure.
Very dynamic game. By comparison, the AFC Championship was a sad, complete squash.
Man.
Oh my God. So
Man.
the Chiefs score early, and then they score often. And the Ravens have no way of shutting down the Chiefs' defense because all the Chiefs do, and this was every time, they get the ball, they hand it off, they run around the outside, and then the Ravens have no way of stopping it.
Yeah,
it was I called
crazy.
it their play. It was their play. They just do this over and over again, and the Ravens get stuffed.
Yeah, Baltimore comes out. They take a 3-0 lead early, and I'm like, okay, this feels like what we're going to see this weekend. And then it's 7-3 Kansas City. Mahomes throws to Kelsey. Like, okay, here we go.
Those were names I recognized.
It just did not stop. It was Clyde Edwards-Helaire on a sweep play every single time for 10, 20, 30 yards. He was gashing them. It was crazy.
It was so stupid. The Chiefs get it. The Chiefs get it again. There's an interception. There's a fumble. Yeah. The Chiefs get it again. And you're just like, Ravens, what are you doing?
Yeah, as someone who lives local to Baltimore, I can tell you that if this happens this Sunday, this city will explode.
Riots.
My God.
Is it like with Philadelphia, where when you win, you riot, and when you lose, you riot?
It's not that bad, but I can tell you the feeling around here, though, from the locals, is this game is going to be easy, and with Mahomes, it's never going to be easy. And I think that Tecmo proved it. This was 17 or 14-3 or 17-3 at the half. This really was not close.
Well, and the thing is, we're playing on last year's roster because we couldn't get this year's roster. But the Chiefs have been good for a few years now. So it didn't feel unfair to use last year's Chiefs versus this year's Chiefs. They're still good. And as you said, this game proved it. 31-10 was the finish. And by the end of it, you're just like, I'm kind of bored watching because there's almost no way they're going to fix this at this point.
It's interesting too, because the narrative in this game was, Lamar Jackson in real life is the favorite for the MVP. He had a great season. People are thinking he's going to win. They're not going to announce that till maybe the week before, week after the Super Bowl. But people feel like he's going to win. He had a very bad game here, and it'd be kind of interesting, true to form, if people are talking him to be the MVP in real life, to come out this weekend after what Tecmo Bowl did and have the same kind of down game. That would just be kind of interesting and fun to me.
So the Super Bowl, if this were the real Super Bowl, I think there might be riots in the first quarter. Because oh my God, this is a weird back and forth before we even get a real score. The Chiefs get the coin flip, get control of the ball, they run it to the 20, and then they with 3 failed moves and they have to kick it away. 49ers get it at their 28, run it up to the 35, fail, they have to kick it away.
I can't remember the last time I saw back-to-back punts in a Tecmo Bowl game. I'm like, what are we watching? I'm like, I know we did this under the preseason, but come on.
Well, but what it said to me was that the defense on both of these guys are fairly well matched. And early game, that was true.
It's balanced.
Balanced. You can see why in real life and why in Tecmo Bowl these are some of our top teams, because these two guys are very balanced and very good. Yes. So the Chiefs then get it back. The punt comes to them, is past their end zone, which, because we're playing with Tecmo Bowl rules, which doesn't understand that catching in the end zone means you get the free 20. Right. But it went past the end zone, so they still got the free 20. We have to clarify that because that's important to note. But then they fail. The Chiefs, doing their standard outside run, fumble, letting the 49ers recover at the Chiefs' own 22. And then they run it in for a touchdown because that's an easy run-in for the 49ers. And they were running their run play all last game. So
they were. And the costly turnover here, short field for the 49ers, and they just took it in to take the early lead.
And then it just feels like they don't let it go at that point.
Yeah, Kansas City, they get a field goal to make it 7-3. Mahomes looked good, hitting a little bit of Juju Smith-Schuster, a little bit of Travis Kelce, working his way down the field. 7-3, we got a game going here. And then real quick, Trey Lance to Deebo Samuel with a long touchdown, 14-3, and is what the feeling is going through Kansas City sideline.
Very So we got a big run that gets 14-10. After halftime with no score, there's a scrum that follows that goes no. There was like big running back and forth, and the guys weren't able to do anything. Like I wrote it literally as a scrum before halftime because that's all it looked like. You don't normally see shit like that in Tecmo Bowl, but it was just like the players were running all over the place, almost like electronic football, and then nothing came of it.
It's funny, man. It looked like that, like the old electronic, like vibrating football table that makes no sense.
None. 49ers then got the ball, catch it, run it up to the 24. They get a big score early, 21-10. Punt return then lets the Chiefs tighten things back up to 17-21. But again, it's always like within 4 points. Like we've always got this 4-point barrier that the Chiefs are struggling to get over. And then the 28-17 49ers, 24-28 for the Chiefs when they score. 49ers then take it 35-24. And you're sitting there going, okay, that is more than a single touchdown.
Yeah.
How are you guys going to pull off 9 points?
Yeah, and Trey Lance, the 49ers really took over with the passing game here in the second half. Big plays to Brandon Ayuk, big plays to Kyle Juszczyk making catches. Mahomes was great. He hits Kelsey, I think, for 2 second-half touchdowns. Very, good to see the hookup between the two of them was still alive and strong, and I'm sure Taylor Swift, watching somewhere from the Tecmo Bowl stands, was very happy to see that.
Every time I described what we were doing here, I called it as the Chiefs were the Taylor Swift backup band.
I mean, that's the way it feels right now.
It does. Oh, it so really does.
Back and forth game, really exciting. San Francisco, like you said, takes an 11-point lead late, and they just hang on to it from there. And that's the final. Super Bowl 58, San Francisco 49ers 35, Kansas City Chiefs 24, which, I mean, in the universe of reality, this is certainly possible to happen. You never know.
No, it is. It's well within the possibility. You could see it actually potentially happening. And that's the thing is, the first game and the third game were really close. It felt like actual teams playing this. The Lions, the 49ers, and the Chiefs. The second game, sometimes squashings like this happen, but they don't happen very often.
Yeah, and I expected more from Baltimore in this game, quite frankly. And I got to listen to it all the time, being from the area. At least that's where I live now. And the Raven fans down here are rabid. So to see them get owned pretty handily by Mahomes would just be like, to have that happen in Baltimore on Sunday would be tragic.
It's truly tragic. Well, and it's the thing that I was noticing is at least in Tecmo, and this is true in Tecmo, when one team has a really good single play, and the other team doesn't guess it. Like, if we were playing human to human, and I started running that same outside play or both outside plays, you'd 50-50 choose that one every time. Like, one of the two I'm going to do. But the computer didn't do that. I think they ran it against the Ravens almost every time they did a run play, and only once did the Ravens guess the sack.
Yeah. Mahomes had quite a few quarterback sweeps in that game. He probably had somewhere between 40 to 60 yards rushing, which again is certainly possible with what he's capable of and how athletic he is. But it was a play that just did not have the answer for. And the real life Baltimore has a very strong linebacking core. So we'll see if some of these guys can keep an eye on him this weekend, because Baltimore is got to have to bring it. I think they'll win the game in real life. I think Tecmo may have gotten this one wrong. I think we're in store for a Baltimore, and I'd love to see the Lions make it out of the NFC. It's going to be very difficult in San Francisco to make that happen. But my point is, do not sleep on Mahomes, Baltimore. Even though I think you're going to win this game, Buffalo got caught this week too. Don't get caught.
For sure. Yeah, no, this was definitely an interesting experiment. It seemed accurate to me for what little I know about football and what I know of the teams, but it also seemed like just a really interesting way to try and predict. Like, you get people that go, hey, I'm going to use Madden, I'm going to predict, because, accurate scores, accurate players, it's supposed to be the most accurate simulation. We went the opposite route. We went the least accurate simulation.
Yeah,
and yet it worked.
It's a game. It's amazing. The game's amazing if you have Tecmo Super Bowl. I mean, I can throw touchdown passes from my end zone in that game. It's so true to life.
Yeah, and like when you're playing against the computer, you can run up right to their their defense and then just do a little juke and get through their defense every time on a run play. And that doesn't work in real life, but it works here, and you're like, oh, well, this is if the computer knew what they were doing. And that's why we did 2 computers as opposed to you and I playing, because we want to take human error out of it, and we wanted to let Tecmo be Tecmo. And at least for 2 of the games, it felt accurate.
It felt like it could really happen.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it was a fun experiment.
Yeah.
When I fired the idea your way about talking about sports, you fire back with this. I'm like, oh, I love it. It's so much fun. And this is a good time. I think there's people that have, pet parrots or dogs, walk over to like a bowl or something with a logo and pick games. How is this any different? And this is so much more fun.
This is better because like the stats of the games are actually, or the players is actually tuned a little in these mods. They base some of the plays that they're hacking into the ROM on what the actual teams are doing. Like, it is to a certain extent a quote unquote accurate simulation as much as a NES game from 1991 can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, it did feel legit to a certain extent. I was kind of pleased and a little shocked.
It was a good time. I enjoyed it quite a bit. We'll get the rosters a little more accurate. The spirit of what we're doing is totally there. And the style of play from the 4 teams that we watched was very true to form, which I think we'll see for real this weekend anyway. So I don't think anything was lost in the sauce right there. I think it was a lot of fun. It was a great idea, and I enjoyed it.
Yep. So, for those of you that actually like football and understand anything that we just said, this has been Not So Live from Asteroid G. For those of you that don't know football but just like Tecmo, or were just intrigued to hear these us doofuses do something like this, hopefully you enjoyed and you'll stick around for the next podcast when our official season begins. But again, this has been Not So Live from Asteroid G, oddly playing on the digital football field this week. I'm your host, Mike Finkelstein.
And I'm Ghoul Mike, playing the role of Coach Mike this week. Y'all have a good one.
And we will see you all next time.
It was a really good time.
And you and I had pretty good play-by-play notes, so it felt like we were actually talking about a real game there.
Yeah, I tried. Like, once the first game ended and I took, notes of, a big play here or what was going on there, I'm like, you said you had notes. I should probably track this a little more detailed than I was.
Yeah, no, that was a good time. And, I had to go back and rewatch the first couple minutes of the first game because I didn't track, yardage and how far they got for my notes. And I realized that was important. Like, when you get the punt return, don't just say they did a short run. Say where they did a short run to. So, learning how to do play-by-play myself right here. Next time, I'll try and, I'll probably record it and then watch it later. So that when I actually watch it, I can pause and get player names and see who, goes for the big touchdown cutscene and all that,
Right.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah. So...